Okay, so page 14 is where we start our notes for the part 2. Okay, and so I kind of, start you with reminding you what we had done earlier, where say we had the choir and the band. I want to remind you that there were 2 ways to get total of what was in here. You can either add up the individual parts, which you might do if you have the Venn diagram, or you could do the generic one, the choir plus the band, but then take away that overlap that got counted twice. Okay, and so that's kind of what is demonstrated here. Probability of A plus B minus A and B. Now, what you have been doing for the overlap part, for the and that we did right before Thanksgiving, is multiplication of the probability of A's times the probability of B's. And you've been doing that ever since you've been doing that type of probability, maybe, I don't know exactly when it's introduced, maybe 6th grade. And so that has already been done, and all that you have had so far in your schooling is when the events are independent, meaning when A is occurring, it's not changing what happens next with B. So they are independent of each other, and you can just multiply them like getting heads on 2 consecutive flips. What you get on the first flip does not affect what you get on the second flip, so you are just multiplying those 2 events to get the total probability of those 2 events happening. All right, but now we are in big time probability and statistics, and we deal with a situation where they are not independent. I can't say they are dependent. Don't say dependent, because that's a no-no in this class. That actually means one is directly related to the other, like a perfect one-to-one relationship, and we don't have that. But they are not independent. So the fact that you have one thing is changing the probability of the other event. Okay? So that would look like this. Here's that general rule. The probability of A and B is written this way. Probability of A, and then you have this symbol here. You've seen this in set notation in your pre-calculus or your calculus class. That is said given that. Okay? So the probability that A occurs given that B has happened. The probability of A happening given that B has happened is this. So basically, out of all the B's, out of all the B stuff that's happening, what is this probability of the A and B happening? I need A and B. What portion is the A and B happening at the same time? Okay? And this is called conditional probability, because we are saying you are finding the probability that event A is happening conditional upon the event that B has already happened. B has already happened. So now what's the probability that A is happening as well? Okay. So these formulas are actually on your formula chart. I think I'm going to show you those tomorrow, because we're just kind of using those 2 right now. So let's go on to the next page. Let's rewrite this formula, see if we can kind of see if it makes sense to us. Probability of A given that B has happened. Okay. So what's going to go on the bottom? Yeah, this second one is what goes on the bottom. So out of all the probabilities of B, what's on top? A and B. So I need A and B occurring at the same time is what's on top. A and B out of all the B's. Okay? All right, so there's our formula that we're going to use now. And so let's take a look at these next 3 problems, paying attention to what our denominator is and what we're given, and what is in our bag. Is this a bag of B's? Is this a bag of everything? What is this a bag of? All right, so here we go. Example A. What's the probability that a randomly chosen student is a boy enrolled in Spanish? We have this table of boys and girls in Spanish, French, and German. So we want to know the probability that a randomly chosen student is a boy enrolled in Spanish. Okay, is a boy enrolled in Spanish. Okay, so talk to me about what that's saying. What is my bag? What's in my bag that I'm drawing from? It is all the students. So I haven't dwindled it down. I haven't told you, hey, given that I have a boy, what's the probability there in Spanish? I've just said, pick from the whole bag of students. So I don't have a given that situation here. I'm just wondering, what's the probability that this is a student that is a boy and in Spanish if I am picking from the whole big bag? Okay? So, I mean, you can think of it in terms of 100% is on the bottom. What is the portion that is the overlap of boys and Spanish? Or 0.2. So, if I put everybody, all the students in a big bag, there's a 20% chance that I'm going to pull out a boy in Spanish. Okay, now, let's look at how B is worded. What is the probability that a boy is enrolled in Spanish? So have I told you any specific information about this person, or is it a randomly chosen student? I have told you it is a boy. So my bag is no longer the whole entire student population. My bag is now what? Yes, my bag is just a boy bag. Okay? So it's probability that I am given the information that it's a boy. What's the probability that it's in Spanish? So let's write out how this is notated. So that's the out of all the boys on the bottom, on the top is my what? Spanish and boys. Okay. So on the bottom, the number that goes there is my 0.4. My boy bag is made up of 0.4 of the population. And what are the Spanish boys on top? Spanish and boys is, okay. So if I had a bag of just boys, then the probability that I would pull out a boy that's in Spanish is 50%. Okay? All right, so the difference is my bag here is all of them. My bag here was what? Boys. Okay? Let's look at part C. What's the probability that a student that is enrolled in Spanish is a boy? So do I know a specific quality about my bag? It's Spanish students. A student that is enrolled in Spanish. So out of all, given that I have Spanish students, what's the probability that it is a boy? Okay. So I got all the Spanish ones on the bottom. Boy and Spanish on top. All right. So let me circle my bag that I got going on here. So now I got a Spanish bag, not a boy bag, a Spanish bag. Okay, so what's made up in my Spanish bag? The total of my Spanish bag is 50% of the total population, of which what portion is the boys and Spanish? Okay, so the 0.2 on top, meaning that 40% chance that if I had a Spanish bag, 40% chance I would pull out a boy. Okay? So, by the way, what's my bag full of on this one? All the Spanish. Okay, so do you see this is 3 different bags here. That's why I have 3 different amounts. So what I want you to do is try these ones here. I want you to try the proper notation, okay, because that's what we're practicing. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Correct. this order, boys in Spanish versus Spanish and boys. I think I just wrote it the way I had written it in the problem, but you're right, it doesn't matter. Correct. Correct. Okay? All right, so I'm going to have you practice those, and then we'll come back and check and see how you did on here. Notation-wise, honestly, I think that this step here is a little excessive because your denominators on both of those are the same. Okay, I get that. And in the past, I kind of skipped that step with my student. I said, okay, out of all your aces, of which there are 4, how many of them are red aces? And that's the 1 out of the 4, so that was your 25% chance. But notation-wise, here's what it should have looked like. See, it is known that the card is an ace. So therefore, that is the given that it is an ace. What's the probability that it is a heart? Correct. So you can, yeah, so that's why it instinctively makes sense to go straight here to this 1/4. Okay? So you're saying it should be 0.25 over 1? Okay, well that's fine. It's the same way of thinking of it. Yes. Yeah, which is the same thing, right? These are all synonymous. Like this is the same as this is the same as this. They're all proper thought processes. Okay? All right. But, make sure you get this. This is important that you understand that. Okay. And so on. The next one, 26 of them are black. So out of the 26 that are black, there are 2 black aces. There are 2 black aces out of the 26 black in the deck. So that reduces to 1/13. I know that's kind of hard to see back there, sorry. Okay? And then out of the 4 jacks, there are 2 blackjacks. I like saying that. There are 2 blackjacks. So then there's your 1/2. Okay, good. All right, so that's our conditional probability notes. And so tomorrow in class, you're going to basically do 15 through 17, should be pretty quickly, and then you're going to have some homework, or you can work on it in class, see what you get done, okay? So we'll have a lot of work in class that'll turn into homework tomorrow. But for today, none. Yay.